Welcome to Mental Health Matters podcast with Séamus Corry. This episode includes in-depth discussions on topics surrounding mental health, including experiences with depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, and feelings of despair. We recognize that these subjects may be sensitive to some of you, our listeners, and we encourage you to take good self-care. Please listen at your own pace and don't hesitate to pause or seek support if needed. Thank you so much. This is Mental Health Matters. This is Series 2. Thank you to all those who have subscribed to my channel, my YouTube channel, and my Spotify channel. If you haven't already done so, the links to both channels will be available in the comments below and in the show notes. And I would certainly recommend you maybe subscribing and following this podcast, because I have with me today my brother from another mother, one amazing guy who's written an amazing book about his own story and about his own journey through mental health recovery. And I'm not going to share much about the book because I think I'll let him speak about his own book himself. But I will say it's one of the most powerful reads that I've had the opportunity to read this year. Quite insightful, very insightful, and it fulfills both, a double objective for me. It's both a story of a journey, but also a story of recovery. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you today my one and only brother from another mother, Paolo Trepiccione, who's here with us today to talk about all things forever connected. Paolo, you're very welcome to Mental Health Matters this afternoon.
Oh, thank you for having me. And, should we tell anyone about the 27 attempts to get my surname pronunciation right, or should we just leave it as a one shot?
Just, if I've got it wrong, tell me if I've got it wrong.
No, you got it perfect, man. Like, honestly.
Thanks, man.
This is one of the things that I kind of dreaded a little bit when I was like, maybe I should make a pen name with like a surname that won't like tie people up in knots. But no, I decided to go with the original. But thank you for having me on. And where to start?
Firstly, Paolo, you and I have connected over LinkedIn, and we have shared the road, as it were, for a good 3 months now, nearly coming up in a year, I would say.
Yeah.
And I first connected with you through Phenom Publishing. You'll remember through Angela and Dana when your book was first published. And Dana and Angela reached out to me and said you should contact this guy called Paolo. He's got an amazing story and an amazing book. So I did, and we had an initial connection. And then I bought your book and read your book. And wow, what a book that is! What an absolute book that is. But for those who don't know you, Paolo, for those of my listenership who might know you, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you, and where do you find yourself in life right now?
Okay. I will add very quickly. You were, I think, the first or second person who I didn't know already that I added on LinkedIn, because I had no idea how to use LinkedIn at that point. I'd never been on it. And I was like, I'm going to make a connection with this guy. I don't understand what any of this means, but it was good.
Yeah.
So you're like in my first top 5 like people I met on LinkedIn.
I'm honored, man. I'm honored to be in your top 5.
So who am I? What am I doing at the moment? So I'm Paolo. I live in the southeast of England, and um, I'm an author. Um, Published last year, and going to be published again in about a week's time. And yeah, so I've lived in this country all my life. I've had like a relatively normal life, I guess, up until about 4 years. God, where are we now? 3.5 years ago? Yeah. I had a normal family. I did the normal thing. I went to school, went to college, I went to uni, screwed up, went to uni again, screwed up. Um, Worked a load of jobs that didn't mean anything to me, bought a house, got married, got a car. Very, very kind of standard stuff. And, I was kind of just sleepwalking through life, really. And then I had January 2021, I had the week from hell, where I basically suffered a bereavement, and then 2 days after that, I was without a job. Two very heavy, scary things to happen separately, but they happened to me within days of each other, and I just completely and utterly crumbled. I just did not know what to do. I was just lost. I was stuck between trying to find time to grieve, but also being conscious of the fact that I need to get my income stream moving again. But so, I mean, something that sort of came out of all of that was realizing that I was just not happy with a lot of aspects of my life, and a lot of it. And, one of the things that came out of that was professionally, I just wasn't doing anything that spoke to me at all. And, my sort of knee-jerk reaction was, come on, just go back to, get a job, do the thing you always do when, situations like this happen. I just couldn't do it. I was borderline non-functional for months. I was in a very bad way. There were a couple of occasions where I very nearly called it quits on life for good, because I just didn't know what to do. Basically, it felt like I'd been thrown into a pit, a deep dark pit, head first, and I just didn't know how to get out of it. I didn't know what to do. So it's almost like I shut down. Yeah. So it was a bad time that kind of made me, one, aware how little I knew about things like well-being and how to kind of take care of myself and things like that. And the second thing it made me very aware of was the system I relied on to do all of that stuff essentially had no interest in helping me for whatever reason, because they're under-resourced or just, whatever it was. But yeah, I couldn't get any professional help outside of getting prescription medication, which they're happy to just dole out. But I just couldn't get any help anywhere, even right down to the local council. I approached them and just said, look, I've never missed a council tax payment in my life, and I've lost my job. I'm in a really bad way. Can you give me like some grace just to, until I get myself sorted out? And what I got told was, no, just you have to pay. And I just thought, okay, cool. So, yeah, so I just kind of felt like I was not getting any help, and if anything, I was getting a little bit of a kicking from certain angles that shouldn't be coming from. So what did I do? So I did the one thing that Paolo does best, and I thought, you know what, I need to basically get myself out of this. So I just began obsessively researching and reading about depth psychology and, uh, how anxiety basically impacts an individual, how depression impacts somebody. I started learning about well-being. I started um, learning about spirituality, and I just basically OD'd on information to try and work out, you know, who I was in the aftermath of what I thought was normal life suddenly stripped away from me, and two, how do I move forward? So yeah, I mean, it took a lot of reading, a lot of listening to certain people on YouTube, and just trying to, I spread the net far and wide. Not all of it was relevant, and some of it I've had to consciously just sort of go, this isn't really working for me. But yeah, I kind of got myself to a point where I was functional again, and I kind of reestablished a revenue stream. I found work, and I was just plodding on. But that whole experience left me with this this nagging urge in the back of my mind that I I um I had more to do. That this was not, what I was trying to basically do was go back to how things were before that week, and it's just that was just, it was, there was no way it was going to happen like that. Me died in those few months. There was just no going back to the old way of just basically sleepwalking through life. Now, obviously, you have to appreciate at this point, I'm still quite raw over what happened. I'm only just trying to sort of get back into a rhythm. And I'm like, do I really have to sit here now and figure out what it is I really want to be doing? Like, I'm still a mess at this point, and I nearly went to end my life twice in the span of like 5 months or however long it was. And I just hit points where I was just like, I don't want to live anymore. I had to take myself to hospital and just say to them, listen, you need to do something before I do something I can't reverse. And yeah, I mean, they kind of sat me with someone who asked me questions for about half an hour and then went, it's a prescription on your way now. So nice one. So yeah, I had this like, well, why don't I feel satisfied? What's this void in me now that I need to fill? All the while I'm still working through the grief of what happened, the shock of what happened, the trauma of what happened. And so what I decided to do, I took the advice of someone I follow on YouTube, and they said, if you find yourself faced with an intractable problem, write it down. Because writing, as it turns out, is a really good form of therapy. If you can't speak to someone else to bounce ideas off of them, then you start writing down things that are troubling you. You can, at least they're on paper, you're looking at them, you can explode them out, you can expand on them, you can really essentially have a dialogue with yourself.
Yeah.
Now, that turned into, so I have a close group of friends who we meet every Friday, well, most Fridays, in the evening to indulge in a tabletop role play game with me. But I'll expand on what that is in a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And they're always saying to me, "Oh, no, you're a really good storyteller. You should write a book. You should write a book." And the thing is, I was really into creative writing as a kid, like really, really into creative writing. English was the only subject I got right in school. I absolutely messed up all the other ones because just did not have any interest in them whatsoever. I did not give a rat's behind about maths and science and blah, 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 blah. I loved English. I loved English lit. Not the boring books they made us read, though. If I ever pick up a Jane Austen book again, it's because I've lost my marbles. So I'm never going to read that rubbish. I'm not into it. I'm not. I was really into art, but I was told I was really bad at it by the teacher. So that kind of that killed my interest in art. Joke's on him because, I paint miniatures quite well these days, as anyone who follows me on Facebook or LinkedIn will attest. So I said, okay, fine, more to these guys. I said, all right, just to shut you up, I'm going to write a book. And I was like, right, how do I write a book? There's no, it's like, well, what do I do? Okay, I'll just start. So I just got a laptop, started typing. I was like, cool, this is going to be a book. No, that was a manuscript I was creating. And I thought, what am I going to write about? It's like, I've always had this idea for a fantasy story. I've had a million ideas for fantasy stories. But I thought, I need to write about something that is meaningful. And I thought, okay, start writing what happened and forge it into a story. The stuff that had happened earlier that year. So that's what I did. I dramatized the events of early 2021, and essentially everything I did on the sort of road to leveling off. I wouldn't say recovery because that's an ongoing journey, but to just get myself stabilized to carry on the journey. So that's what I did. I wrote the fantasy novel, or the start of the fantasy saga novel. Saga of novels. I don't know if that's right. That I'd always wanted to write, but I also wrote about something that was very close to me, which was what I'd gone through at the beginning of 2020. And also, I found that as I was writing, it was starting to make more sense to me. There was breakthroughs in real time. Like, honestly, so many of those chapters were, I was in tears writing so many of them because I just felt the breakthroughs, and suddenly there was like clarity on things that I just, had not made any sense to me before. And so, yeah. And then that manuscript coalesced into ready? 1, 2, 3.
Hey.
Coalesced into this book.
Fantastic.
So yes, it is a fantasy story. It is told from the perspective of two protagonists, one heavily based upon myself, and the other one a completely original creation. As where I am now, so I'm writing a sequel. And the other thing I'm doing, so at the end of the book, when I finished writing it, I was like, this feels really good. This feels like something I want to keep doing. But is there more? I just felt like there was something a little bit more I could, I wanted to do. And I just thought, what is it? And I thought, again, the same person who said about writing as a form of therapy, said that, when you're trying to find a purpose, look for a breach somewhere that you can fill. And I thought, and one of the things that year, that whole experience taught me was, Seamus, there is just nothing. There is so little in the way of support for people, affordable support for people that need it. Like, honestly, the NHS is slammed. The community mental health teams, there's just not enough of them. They have to prioritize what support they can give to the people who are like, dangling by a thread, but unfortunately that creates this notion that it's black and white, either you're fine or you're dangling by a thread. And the thing is, all the people that are kind of in between, there's so little out there, or there's waiting lists as long as my arm for, well, we'll do 8 to 12 weeks of CBT. It's like, yeah, we'll do. It's like, some of these people, 8 to 12 weeks of CBT is a drop in the ocean for what they need. So I decided that what I would like to do, and I've got the bare bones of it together, and I'm building it up. Is I've decided to use my experience to essentially become like a mentor or a counselor, non-clinical, because I don't have any clinical training. What I do have is experience with a lot of heavy stuff and the ability to just listen. So I did a few courses to become an expert by experience. And I was like, this still doesn't feel quite right. But honestly, I'm terrible. This is like artists, man. We're just a nightmare. We're never satisfied with anything we do. There's always like we can refine it a little bit more. We can, So I was like, right, why doesn't this still feel right? It's like I need to personalize it somehow. Now the thing is, I've done tabletop role play games since I'm going to say 18. I'm 41 now, so quick maths, 23 years. Well, I'm closer to 42 now, but anyway, which, is collaborative storytelling. And I just thought, I love doing that.
Yeah.
But can I marry those two things somehow? So what I've decided, and there is a small, but it's a very niche pocket of like the kind of therapeutic world where people use tabletop role play games to basically facilitate talk therapy.
Yeah.
I'm doing a lot of reading around it at the moment. But I came up with the idea for something called the Gentle Dragon Inn. So what that's going to be when it's up and running, I'm going to essentially use storytelling as a means by which to essentially help with, to basically do talk therapy. I mean, if the individual doesn't feel comfortable doing that and just would rather conventional talk therapy, that's fine. I can do that too. But I feel very strongly about the idea of using storytelling as a means by which to deliver like a, therapy to somebody. So that's where I am at the moment, working hard to get that sort of fully formed and off the ground.
Good. Paolo, thank you for sharing that. And no doubt, you've had an incredible journey, and as you say yourself, your recovery is ongoing. It's an ongoing journey for you. Your book crystallizes that journey in a very real, in a very succinct way. And certainly as one who's read your book from cover to cover and I couldn't really put it down. Actually, it was a read to such an extent that I was moved by the words that were written on those pages. It was very much a from the heart form of writing, and I could feel your journey. I could feel your hurt. I could feel your pain. I could feel your sense of loss, but also your anger at the so-called service side of mental health recovery, where there was no services available, essentially.
Yeah, there was nothing. I went to a GP. They just said, yeah, we can refer you to something called wellbeing. I said, okay, we'll look into it. And I had an initial call with them, and they said, Yeah, I mean, the best we can offer you is like a course of CBT in about 6 months' time.
Mm.
It's just okay, like, thank you, I guess. There wasn't a lot, and I kind of early on in the book, I and sort of around the midpoint, I don't focus too heavily on it, but enough to make it clear that that chapter, that essentially half of it is almost verbatim a call that I had with one of them. And
Yeah.
honestly, when you're talking to like a different person every time, and it's like, oh, can you, can you just tell me what's going on? Like, can you just summarize? And I'm like, look, I've summarized this. I don't know how many times at this point.
Yeah.
What happens when you summarize a summary? Like, I just, yeah, it was just, so I'd lose half the appointment time just retreading what I'd retread I don't know how many times.
Mm.
And it was just really stressful. Because then for their half of it, they're like, um, and then it asked me the same battery of questions that the previous person would ask me, and then all it would culminate in is, yeah, let's try you with this medication instead, and it's just, oh God, it was frustrating. The day I discharged myself from their care, um, I felt pretty damn good about that.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, it's a bit of a commentary on the lack of help, but yeah.
Yeah, I would also say there's a great symbiology within the book that directs the reader towards. Yes, it's dark, and you've got elements of the cave, and you've got elements of the darkness, and you've got elements of the spider's webs, and you've got all that energy growing around, but you also have the light, right? You also come to that awareness where the fantasy character and the real character take up the same space.
Yeah.
And would you say that that was that you're coming to an awareness of, you know, reconnecting with yourself, as it were?
I'd say so. I mean, the whole book's purpose was for me to essentially document what happened and work
Mm,
through it
mm,
and to understand what happened.
mm,
Now, the reason I did it as a split narrative was because so half of the chapters were from the real world protagonist's perspective. So that deals with the more kind of, I guess, real life mechanical side of things. But the fantasy protagonist, goes on a literal journey rather than a metaphorical one.
yeah.
And, but they're both, both characters basically are driven
Mm,
by a loss they sustained,
yeah.
and with the fantasy character, the idea I wanted to do was to basically approach the same problem, but from a different angle. Whereas Paolo was dealing with a lot of loss, a
Mm,
lot of fear, a lot of grief, a lot of
mm,
anger, and he was a bit out of control because he was an emotional mess. The other character encountered the manifestations of these things as physical, tangible creatures,
yeah.
and who try to undo him, with in each of their own unique ways. And, he overcomes each one the same in the same sort of way that I was, as a real person, was overcoming these things at the time. Um, so yeah, it just basically let me approach the problem from different perspectives.
Yeah. Brilliantly written, I would say, Paolo. Brilliantly written. And brilliantly referenced. And I was moved, I was moved again, and the book moved me. The book moved me to a place where it makes you reflect on your own journey. It makes you reflect on those things that mightn't be going exactly right for you. It's a process of reflection, right? It's a process of deep reflection. It was the process of deep reflection for you, which this is probably a really unfair question, but I'm going to ask it, right?
Go on, hit me.
Okay. Which for you provided the better sense of healing, writing about your own experience or using a fantasy character to exegete or stretch or put under the microscope what you were feeling in order to get to a place where you began and saw to understand it a little bit more and you had a little bit more clarity. Which position gave you the more healing, would you say, in terms of your writing?
Mm.
Sorry.
So which of the two arcs was
Yeah.
okay? So I'm gonna say you put me on the spot, so I've not had time. I'm not gonna have time to think about this. So I'm just
I
gonna go
know.
with my
I'm
gut
sorry
response.
about that. I'm sorry
No,
about
no, no,
that.
no, that's good, man. No, no, that's good. It's good because it means the answer's going to be legit, not pre-scripted.
Mm,
I'm gonna say it was the fantasy character
yeah. I would have said the
purely
fantasy
because
character.
yeah, purely because so the real world protagonist, I writ his side of things as more like a manual,
Yeah.
you know. So it's like these are the people I read about. These are the things that I did. This is the so I learned about meditation. I learned about his story was more of a manual on what to do or what I did. I'm not going to sort of jump on a soapbox and say you should do this because it
Mm,
worked for me. No, like it worked for me. Some of it might work for you. Some of it won't. None of it might work for you. All of it will. I don't know.
mm,
But his story was more. It was more of a sort of documentation of methods and things like that, and a story second. Whereas the fantasy character, his was just pure story.
yeah.
And I mean, it was a little bit self-indulgent because the other thing that the fantasy character allowed me to do was achieve an ending that, like Paolo in real life, basically did not get to achieve. It was kind of like this character kind of was my way of sort of subverting history, my personal history a little bit.
Mm.
Um, so, but yeah, I'd say in terms of the breakthroughs, yeah, there were more of them when I was writing the fantasy chapters, especially the chapters where he encounters fear.
Mm,
No, sorry, not fear. Yeah, fear and grief. So the two later encounters that he has,
mm,
and I because I had to sit there and I had to face things that I did not want to think about, like really dig deep, like deeper than I wanted to dig, and the whole time I've got the keyboard in front of me and I'm just like, just commit it to paper. So yeah, I'd say the fantasy character was the one I got more breakthroughs from.
I would concur. I certainly would concur. But it's great that you had an archway. It's great that you had uh, a double
Mm.
story going on side by side with another, like two trains running down similar tracks until eventually the tracks meet and combine into the one, which was a beautiful moment in the book. And I won't spoil that moment for people that
Yeah.
have not read it yet. And I'm amazed if you've not bought the book already, if you've not read the book already. And I would certainly recommend from today's episode and from today's podcast episode, you go out today and you buy this book, you purchase this book, you read this book, you reflect on this book, and then quite kindly leave Paolo a review on his own website or on the Amazon website in which you purchase the book from, because it's a powerful book, Paolo. There's no two ways. There's no two ways to say it. It's a powerful, heartfelt, uh, grief-stricken journey of somebody who found himself like yourself, and I really, at the very bottom, and I had to, in some sense, um, find the pathway through when
Yeah,
all support facilities, all doors, seemingly were working against you. Would you say then that, in terms of your writing for you was your recovery?
I'd say so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, since I was very little, I've always just been into, I could spin stories up out of nothing. I was always very lost in my own little creative bubble. Um, and, it's just something that I do, I'm going to say naturally. I'm very lucky that, you know, I, I, I am creative like that. Do I wish I pursued it 30 years ago instead of going down the route I had gone down? Sure. But then if I hadn't gone down this route, I don't think I'd have discovered the story that I'm going to be telling. I don't think it would have come to me, and I'm lucky that, 2 or 3 times a week I get to hang out with other people and just indulge in my creativity. I get to keep company with other people who are just natural storytellers, and like honestly, it's such a good thing to be able to do. And I can't say enough about how important writing and storytelling, and even if you're not a writer, you don't think you're a storyteller, trust me, you find a subject that means something to you, you'll turn into one. The amount of people who were like, oh, I can never write a book, and I'm like, what do you feel passionate about? And this. I said, okay. Is that like you think about it obsessively? Like, is it something that you would drop everything to go and do whatever? I mean, then that's trust me, you can write volumes about it. All you have to do is feel passionate about it, and that's how I felt with all of this. This was something that, I mean, God, I was committing 8,000 words to paper every weekend. I just literally put everything else on hold, and I had to get this on paper. I had to get it done. This was before I had a publisher.
Yeah.
Like I was doing this before I even knew it was going to become a book. I was just doing this just to create a manuscript.
Wow.
With no guarantees at the end of it.
Yeah. Wow. How did you manage to get to Angela and Dana at Phenom Publishing? Was it again just through a link, or was it through
Oh
an
God.
email or a LinkedIn connection, or was it just
Do you know what? That would have been awesome if it had happened that way. But no, it was very convoluted how it happened.
mm,
So essentially, I finished the manuscript and I was like, cool, what do I do with this now? Because as I said earlier, there's no kind of idiot's guide to how to get published.
yeah.
Or maybe there is now, I don't know. So when I finished the manuscript, I was like, cool, what do I do with this? And it's like, so I do a quick search. Da, 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 da. Okay, cool. So now I've got to find a publisher. Right, wicked. So quick search, UK publishers. Awesome. Found a directory. And I just copy pasted every email in that directory into one email. I just went, here's my manuscript, bang. And yeah, I got a lot of very spiky responses. A lot of them like, we don't accept unsolicited manuscripts. And I'm like, I don't understand what that means. So I do a quick, oh, okay. So I have to have something called an agent to approach like anybody. It's like, okay, cool. So do a quick search, UK agents, wicked, found another directory, copy pasted all the emails that were there. Mate, I didn't
Wow.
know. I
Yeah,
didn't know
yeah,
how any of this works.
yeah, yeah.
So
I,
literally,
I,
I emailed
I love what you said to me,
everyone.
Paula. I love what you said to me. Is you do research the shit out of everything, right? You
Mm,
absolutely do. I love it. I absolutely love it.
yeah, yeah. Look, I emailed everybody on that directory, and oh my god, I got some even spikier responses of because
From the
so
agents.
here's
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So here's something I didn't realize, that apparently they agents don't like it if you email multiple agents within the same agency. And I'm just like, I didn't know that. And like, oh God, mate. But anyway, everyone was just like, yeah, no, not really interested. And I was just like, oh, sod it, I'll self-publish. I started looking into that, and then honestly, so this is how I met Angela and Dana. I was in the Telegram group, and I was just like, yeah, I'm in the process of writing a book, and someone in the group was like, oh, my son owns a publishing house in the UK somewhere. Like, give him a shout. I was like, oh, all right, wicked. So I got in contact with this guy and I said, look, here's a manuscript. And he went, oh, we're not taking any new work on at the minute, but somebody I used to publish has set up their own publishing house over in the US. Like, here's their contact details.
Wow.
I was like, okay, cool. Like Angela and Dana Phenom Publishing. And I was like, all right, yeah, wicked. So I contacted them because bear in mind at this point I'd had so many rejections. I'm just like, I don't care anymore. Like, if they turn around and say, oh yeah, thanks, not interested, I'd be like, yeah, fine, whatever. I'm going to self-publish anyway. I'll show you all. But yeah, so I made contact and they said, oh, send us like the first couple of chapters. I was like, right, send them that. And then I got this little laundry list of, yeah, we're interested. Can you send it to? It was like five. Can you get five people to sort of peer review it and stuff like that? And then I had the initial meeting with. It was Dana initially. I think I had the first meeting with, and I've never spoken to a publisher in my life at this point verbally. Like everything was emails and like digital middle fingers to me from them. And yeah, so if anyone hasn't met Dana and Angela, they're a couple of characters, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
In the best way possible.
Yeah.
They were just like, yeah, really like it. Here's a list of hoops you need to jump through. And I was like, fine, I'll get it done. So I got it proofread by five people who I trusted to do that. And then yeah, they took me on as a client, and then obviously we went through roughly a year of like roundtable edits and getting it prepared to launch and all this stuff. And yeah, it was really good. It was a really good experience. And what I would say to anyone is when you're looking for a publisher, make sure you resonate with them as people. Like, make sure you get on with them because you're going to have to work very closely with these people for a while. And if you get like bad vibes from them from the initial interview, like just steer clear because you'll end up driving each other insane. But yeah, honestly, like those two, I can. So I understand because I have a good friend who's been published for about 11 years at this point, I think. And the stuff he tells me, publishers he's dealt with, and when they do edits, they're just like, yeah, cool. So they take your manuscript and they go away and they edit it. They don't talk to you. They just edit things and they go, here you go. You go back to you like, what the hell? Like, you honestly, they chop and change things. They don't consult with you. No. But Phenom, it's round table. All three of us are on a Zoom call because they're in, oh God, help me, Seamus, Florida and New York.
Yeah, Florida and New York, yeah.
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 So, the three of us met on Zoom and, we were doing edits in real time. We were literally going through the book and it's like, okay, so at this point, and honestly, all the changes, major changes, all came were from me. And, that like nobody was like, oh, you should change this to this. There were suggestions and they were all good suggestions. I went, yeah, cool, do that. Perfect.
Yeah.
Because Dana knows grammar and the mechanics of the language inside out. I don't. I just cough a story onto paper and I throw a smattering of punctuation on there and hope it's in the right place. I'm about 80% that it's in the right place, but yes. But yeah, it's yeah, that's how I kind of got to meet those two. It was a very convoluted kind of like this is going to be my last attempt at doing this. Like you know, if this is another no, then forget it. I'm just going to strike out on my own.
Paolo, what a fantastic achievement. And you have achieved so much, and I celebrate your achievements today. You're in a good space in terms of your recovery, and I celebrate that.
Mm.
You're a published author and soon to be a published co-author, I believe,
Yes.
very soon under the Rattled Wake Anthology Series, Volume 12, the Paul Author Edition. Am I right?
So this is not. So this one's separate from the Rattled Awake stuff. This is just. I think this is the start of a new
A new genre,
series.
a new
Yeah, yeah,
series. Okay,
yeah.
awesome, absolutely
Um,
awesome, and I celebrate. I
mm,
celebrate that as well. I know you've got a new website launched,
yes.
and it's what is the www.paolotrepiccione.co.uk
.com.
.com. My apologies.
Yeah.
.com. Brilliant.
No, that's cool. Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
we Gary suggested we snatch .com
yeah, yeah.
because it was because you know who'd have figured that there's not like a Paolo Trepiccione website, but yeah, that's up there. So that's it talks about my writing, it talks about my sort of peer to peer my peer support stuff, the Gentle Dragon Inn specifically. It's got links to all my socials. I'm not the best person when it comes to like social media stuff. It's because I don't really like social media, if I'm honest. But I understand, you know, it's a necessary evil. But yeah, the website has all my links, or if you like want to find me on LinkedIn and Facebook, I'm there under my name. My book has I have a separate author page which is called Stay Forever Connected. But it's all linked from my website, but you can also just find me directly on LinkedIn and Facebook. There is a contact form on my website if you want to discuss the peer support stuff. That's going to be an interesting new venture for me, and I'm kind of hoping that it becomes like a full-time thing that I can pursue. You know, because it's pursuing what's meaningful to me, you know, which is ultimately helping other people out of the same hole that I found myself in.
Absolutely. Thank you, Paolo. And finally, Paolo, as this is Mental Health Matters, Real Stories, Real Recovery, what would be the one thing you would say to somebody today that might be listening to this that's really, really struggling with their own mental health? What would you suggest to them?
My suggestion would be don't try and tackle it all at once. Like honestly, if you've unraveled at some fundamental level, do not try and solve it all at once because you absolutely won't, and you will drown in the complexity of it, and it will push you deeper than you are when it all started. Pick one thing and fix that, or try to start fixing that, and then when it's at a point where you're happy with it, pick something else. You know, pick the things that are going to get you out of immediate, I'm going to say danger because it is dangerous when you're in that situation. Pick the things that will get you out of immediate danger first, work on those things, get yourself stable, and then worry about everything else. Because this is what I said, like right at the start, the journey of recovery is ongoing. Like for me, you know, I resolved the things I was dealing with immediately at that time to get me out of danger. You know, now, as is the focus of the second book, now I'm thinking about things that happened in the past. What do they mean to Paolo present day? And what do I need to make peace with from that past and resolve that way? But you know, this is the same thing I will say to anybody. resolve what's immediately pressing, and then pick something else to work on. Don't try and deal with it all at once, because it's not possible. And the overwhelm that will come with it will make you feel like there's no hope. And there absolutely is. No matter how deep a hole you find yourself in, you don't try and like find a floodlight. Just light a match to start with, and just go from there. Light a little match, and just find your way out of where you are, and then just keep going from there. Because all you need is that one little bit of hope, that one little bit of, I can get through this. And honestly, it grows exponentially from there.
Paolo,
that would be my advice.
Paolo, thank you ever so much. Thank you for coming on Mental Health Matters this afternoon. Thank you for sharing your story and being so candid and honest and open and transparent in terms of your story. As I say, for those of you who may be considering purchasing a book, look at that. do you know, it does that together every time I hold up the book. Your book is held up.
It makes that exact sound. Yeah,
it's incredible.
But also, turn it around.
Yeah.
Right, see that handsome beast there? That is definitely me. Just so we're.
That is definitely that handsome.
Hang on.
Paolo Trepiccione. Look at that. Yeah, absolutely. That's
looking thoughtful.
That's a writer's look there. That is a writer's look. Yeah. Paolo.
Next one I do, I'll be smiling. I'll look happy.
Get in. Lovely. I know you're happy on the inside, right? You're happy on the inside.
Oh yeah. Like the resting murderer face is just surface level. I'm at peace internally, I think.
Okay. So, Paolo, thank you ever so much. As I say, to find out more about Paolo, you can get him on paolotrepiccione.com. He also, and you'll find out all the information that you require there. All his links are on there. And please, make contact, reach out with this guy, connect with this guy on LinkedIn. He's one in a billion with an amazing story, who I'm honoured to call a friend. And Paolo, I wish you well in terms of your career, and thank you for coming on Mental Health Matters this afternoon.
Yeah, no worries, man. Thanks for hosting me.